This is Keelan Sutherland, FTH 212 with Sonoran Desert Institute, Week 5 assignment. And now I'll be covering three different areas of interest. The first one is using your struck-fired handgun. Describe all the the demonstration piece. Show all the described areas in your firearm, particular interest when inspecting the health of a firearm, and explain why these areas are of particular concern. First, it's obviously a cleared weapon because it's a part. All right, the magazine. Make sure the feed lips are correct. Make sure the follower works, and make sure you're not using this particular Magpul magazine because it's terrible. Next is the slide. I'll be checking the different areas on the bottom for burrs, and then the breech face and the extractor, making sure the sights are on correctly, making sure your plate is fully moved forward. And the reason why you do all that is to eliminate feeding issues or parts coming loose. You want to make sure that your firing pin moves freely, that your safety moves up and down freely, and that you have free movement of travel when you push those things together. There's the firing pin. Back in. You'll also check the extractor tension to make sure that it's extracting rounds correctly. Next is your guide rod. Make sure it's not bent. Make sure that the spring is not broken in any one of the coils. If that happens, if the guide rod's bent, the weapon won't work correctly. You check your barrel for bulges to make sure nobody used hot ammo in it. Check the crown for defects so that it does not have any accuracy problems. Make sure the locking lugs are free of peening on the top and bottom, and check for cracks. All of those things can give you problems. You also, on the frame, you want to make sure your trigger moves freely, that everything inside, all your internal components and sub-assemblies, are moving properly. Your slide catch moves up and down, that your pins are in correctly, so that your magazine release works. You also check your safety. It's easier to do when the weapon's assembled. So those are the things that I would check on to ensure that the weapon feeds, fires, extracts, ejects, loads, chambers, get your lockup, all the different things that are related to that. Next is the part 2, and that's 10 different learning experiences. A lot of mistakes can be covered up by stippling. I buggered up my frame right here. You can see with a punch, but I was able to melt it back into place. And you can smear the plastic. And then next is Glock triggers are easy to install, but a pain in the butt when they're designed. The design is changed, like the dagger. I had a lot of problems with that. And anytime you get a pistol that uses proprietary parts on an existing design, you have a potential failure point. Number 3, not all Glock parts are compatible with the PSA dagger. Like I said earlier, these roll pins here are not compatible with the Glock pins. And also, this pin here on a Glock doesn't exist. It actually is over here. So those are a couple things. The safeties work, or the slide catch works. The extractor and ejector work the same. They're the same parts, but the firing pin is different. Number 4, each pistol design has quirks and needs to be addressed before you work on them. Parts may be different, and knowing that they may have failure points within points with those differences. Like I said, you can't use those parts here and here. The locking block has changed a little bit, the firing pin. And then following instruction, the number 5 is following instructions for assembly are usually the best one, or best. Following instructions for assembly are usually the best course of action. I forgot to put in the channel liner, and I was getting all kinds of weird stuff going on there until I figured out that that chunk of plastic was supposed to go in there. Number 6, roll pins. They deform very easily, and having a vise or extra roll pins on hand make the process easier. And if you do deform one, make sure you replace it or fix it. Let's see, number 7, don't be afraid to try something new like stippling. You may like the process and the outcome. I do like the outcome on this. A friend of mine had a Glock and he used the end of a nail and he made it really aggressive, and I hated it. But with this pattern and some sandpaper, I made it to where it was nice and easy to work with. The next one, the juice has to be worth the squeeze. If a pistol is cheaper, you have to ask yourself if the modification is worth the extra cost. If you buy a new trigger that had a problem engaging the slide stop and caused the trigger pin to walk out of the right side of the frame, it necessarily is not a great trigger for that weapon system. So you might have to either get a trigger that's a little bit wider and not set up for the Gen 5 Glocks, and only set up for the Gen 3, not 1 through 5. Number 10, take time so you don't mar the frame. I already talked about the punch that I got here, and a little bit of finesse would have helped that out greatly. And it says identify number 3, part 3. Identify one modification that you would like to make to your pistol, and that is the. I was actually looking at the mass driver compensator that we received before we received it, and and I like it just because if you're shooting competition or just having fun, having a truck gun or whatever, it actually goes on the front of the barrel and via the guide rod, and it makes it pretty interesting. They're not quite cheap yet. They're I think $150 last time I looked last week. You don't need any special tools to put it together, just a little bit of patience. And let's see, and how much would it cost in material goods? $150, maybe $150 or so. There are some that are cheaper if you have threaded barrels, but that's how much that particular one costs. How much would you charge if you were to perform this modification on somebody's pistol? Depending on if I had to clean the pistol and different things, I might charge $200. I would have to really get into the weeds on that and find out what the actual fair market value is for it, but $15 for shipping, or whatever it costs to ship the thing. So it's $150. I'm guessing $10 to $15 for shipping, 15 rounds of ammo so I can test fire the thing, and then so that's about $5 for testing before and after, shooting 5 or 10 rounds, and then $25 for installation. That's about $275 without taxes. And does this rate align with the rates of other gunsmiths near you? No, because there are no gunsmiths near me. I checked, and the nearest one is about 3 hours away. So most people just try to do it themselves around here, and then try to find somebody who's knowledgeable to fix it when they mess it up. So that is week 5 assignment for SDI, and I will talk with you more later.